Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to every one of you. How are you doing? How is your day, or how has your day been? I hope you guys are having a blast. I hope things have been going well for you. Things have been going well for me. Yeah. So today I decided halfway through the day that I was going to do this live stream. I wasn't sure if I was going to do it if I wasn't. And I decided, you know what? No, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this live stream. And I hope it is a blast, and I believe it will be a blast. And I hope you can hear me. If you can hear me, say yes in the chat. And please don't forget to hit that like button. If you can share the link and tell your friends he's live. If you know someone who is a fan of the channel, you can tell them Frank is live and he's talking about something very interesting. We're going to be talking about something very interesting, and we are going to be rage scrolling through Twitter. Okay, so yeah, that's what we are going to be doing, guys. We are going to be rage scrolling through Twitter today because we are discussing the tweets of our modern day philosopher, Pearl Davis. That's Hannah Pearl Davis. I don't know. So some of you, I put out a poll early in the live stream, and the poll said, "Do you think Pearl Davis is a positive influence for young men?" And 30% of you guys said absolutely. 48 said absolutely not, and 22% were like, "Who is Pearl Davis?" So I think we'll start by introducing her. Pearl Davis is a YouTuber. She's a YouTuber and a podcaster, I believe. She has a podcast that she hosts on YouTube. Let me go to her YouTube channel so that I don't misstate the information out there about her, so that we'll be working with adequate information. So she's a YouTuber. She hosts a podcast called the Pre-Game Show. And the Pre-Game Show is like a dating podcast that discuss problems that have to do with dating. And yeah, and also she's part of the manosphere, part of the red pill community. Yeah, strangely enough, this is a woman who is part of the manosphere. Okay, so her description is: Pearl is one of the fastest growing YouTuber and cultural commentator in the world. Pearl hosts the Pre-Game, a dating and relationship debate show, Pearl Daily, a daily news and commentary show, and the Sit Down Show, a long-form interview podcast. Pearl has amassed Pearl, I don't know how to pronounce this name. Pearl has amassed more than 1.5 million subscribers and 750 million video views in under 2 years with a hard-hitting, irreverent social commentary. Pearl has collaborated with Andrew Tate, Piers Morgan, Brittany Renner, and many other of the world's most influential celebrities and commentators. To stay up to date with all of Pearl's content, be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel. All right, so yeah, we all get it. So I don't know if there's anything mentioned there that you guys didn't get, but essentially Pearl is like renowned and famous and impactful. Her channel has huge cultural impact, or so she claims. She has over 550 million views, okay, on YouTube, and has 1.5 million subscribers. Even though those views, most of it are from shorts, but who am I to complain? Most of my views are also from shorts. But the only difference between me and just Pearly Things is that I do not claim to be, the fastest growing YouTuber and cultural commentator in the world, or one of them. And it's funny because if you've ever come across Pearl's content on YouTube, she always criticizes modern women, of being delusional. And looking through her description, I mean, one of the fastest growing YouTubers and cultural commentator in the world. Man, I won't say she's delusional. I would just say she's overstating things. I guess it's like a promotional description. Marketing, they call it. Anyways, so hello to everyone. This is Mini Girl 175. She's saying hello from Florida, my Nigerian prince. Gladly. It is a title that I have decided to accept. At first, when I was seeing the title Nigerian prince, And I was saying it in my in the comment section to my videos. I was a bit like, oh, I don't like this. But now I'm like, nah, I'll take it. I don't even take it like people who say it meaning any harm. I think it's a joke, a running joke. So I am happy to be your Nigerian prince, just not the fraudulent kind, the actual kind, the real Nigerian prince. And I'm saying hello from Nigeria. Many people are already saying what they think about just politics. Someone says she's a pick me. And this is Kate. She's also saying hello. Hello to you too. And this is Purple Puff. She said, hey from South Africa. Hey to you, my South African sibling. I don't know if you're a guy or a lady. So hey to you, my South African sibling. I hope you're having a blast. I hope I hope the electricity problem in South Africa is not getting worse. I hope you guys do not become like Nigeria in the next 6 months to 1 year. I hope you get better. I hope the ANC becomes a better political party and you guys get, better government and not become as terrible as my wonderful country when it has to do with infrastructure. And yeah, so here's a comment I want to highlight before I go. All right, hi from, okay, let me acknowledge this. This is from Keegan Cabrea. I hope I pronounced that well. Say hi from South Africa. Hi to you too. And here's something I wanted to highlight too. This is from, come on, what's wrong? Sorry, I don't know what is happening with my platform. It's kind of, okay, this is from Not So Random Dude. One day, how far now? How you the hear pigeon? The hear pigeon, oh, my brother. Kedu ife name. How you dey? Waiting this up. Hey, yes, I know how to speak pidgin. I'm a full-fledged Nigerian. I've lived all my life in Nigeria, and I grew up in a place in Lagos known as Mafuloko. So pidgin is like is how we roll. This is sorry, I'm yet to get to the topic of the day. I just want to connect with you guys. Let us establish a rapport. As you can see, that my usual accomplice is not around today. So let me use this opportunity to connect with you guys. This is from Purple Puff. She said, thank you. Unfortunately, we still do have load shedding. Yeah, I understand. There was someone who I contacted today to be on the show, and she told me it will not be possible because her area in Nigeria, she's not a South African anyway, her area in Nigeria has not seen power supply for a couple of days now. So I know how it is like. That's not even load shedding. That's just like blackout. So yeah. So yeah, this is from Not So Random Dude. So I was born and brought up in Europe, but got shipped back to Nigeria back in 2019. Still not back yet. You're still not back, even though you've been shipped. What happened? Is there a part of you, your soul is still in Europe? Unfortunately, please come back in full and accept your Nigerian reality. It is a blast when you choose to take it with a funny bone, when you decide to have a sense of humor about it. And that's one thing about Nigerians, right? We have a huge sense of humor. And there's something this musician, Fela, this late musician and late musical icon in Nigeria, Fela Anikulapo Kuti, he said, Nigerians we are suffering and smiling. So that's one thing about Nigerians, is that we know how to go through hardship with a smile on our face. And I don't know if that is a good thing or if that is a bad thing, but it's something about us that is fascinating. And Chukwu Igwe, my faithful fan and viewer, thank you for joining us. Salute to you too. And we already know we are going to be talking about Pearl Davis. And yeah, so I'm not going to talk about her in general because that will take a lot of research, a lot of us looking into so many things that she has done and said over the past couple of years. A couple of years, 2 years now, because her channel has been up for 2 years. But we are going to be focusing on a tweet that she posted on Friday that became controversial and has continued up until today. So much so that Matt Walsh's monologue for the Matt Walsh show was about what she said. So it is serious when someone like Matt Walsh, sorry, I keep calling him Matt Walsh, when somebody like Matt Walsh is talking about it, right? And So yeah. Oh, Kate, you live in Congo. How is Congo? I didn't know. I thought you live, you are from, let's say, Europe or so. How is Congo? Glad to hear that somebody from that's fascinating. I'm so happy to hear that you're talking to us from Congo. That's great. Thank you. And this is from Anna Ratsumi. She said, New Zealand in the house. I absolutely love your channel. I love you too. And I love your channel. Well, not like, I love you as a fan. And this is somebody making fun of my, yeah, that's how I pronounce it, right? Mouthwash. And this is Shiri Siljak from UK. He said, Pearl is so annoying. Oh, tell me about it. Pearl is so annoying. She speaks on a lot of issues that she has no experience in. Experience is even the least of her problems. She has no information. Facts are inaccurate. She just spill a bunch of nonsense. But continuing what you're saying, that means both marriage and relationship. She takes polls from randoms on the streets and use this nonsense as fact. Not just she misinterprets polls. She takes data from wherever she can find them. She just does this cherry picking where you look for information that supports your bias, and then you just prop them up as fact, and then you say, "Oh, people are angry with me because I'm speaking the truth," when actually they're angry with you because you're just an annoying, whiny, inexperienced, stupid person on social media who people just wish they can avoid. For a long time, I muted her Twitter handle. I rarely see her tweets, but after the Twitter storm that started on Friday, I decided, okay, let me unmute this lady so I can follow the story and see how this is going. I grabbed my popcorn throughout the weekend, even before the show on Saturday, and I was just chewing it and watching the whole Twitter storm. And it was annoying, and some part it was funny, some part it was really, let's say, interesting. So yeah, and this is from Carissa Rose. I would have loved to know where you're messaging us from. And she said, Paul like being treated like trash. She's encouraging her fans that all women love being treated like trash as well. Yeah, that's kind of the sometimes I don't even know what her conclusion is. Sometimes people state things and you're like, okay, what are you trying to say? And sometimes you don't even understand what the conclusion is. Because if I say, yes, that's kind of what she's doing, the question will be, she might be like, oh, I never said that. That kind of thing where you will be like, are you saying this? And they'll be like, no, I never said that. So the problem often is, okay, so what are you saying? And sometimes when I listen to her, or listen to her podcast, read her tweets, I'm like, what's your point? What are you driving at? And sometimes I don't even know what she's driving at. It's like she has so many thoughts floating in her head. She has not even put them together into a cohesive ideology that I will say, okay, this is just poorly things ideology. But everything she seems to spout is just nonsense upon nonsense upon nonsense. And even the ones that kind of look factual and kind of look like they make sense, they are not being placed in their proper place. So I may be like, I agree with her on this point, but I don't know where she's driving at when she makes that point. Like, I agree with you when you say this, but I don't know what your conclusion is. So it's kind of, I agree with you, but where are you going with this? Which is kind of the problem. And sometimes when you see where she's going with certain things she's saying, you're like, okay, no. This is where I don't agree with you. So that's kind of the problem with her. Yeah, she said women shouldn't vote. Yeah, for those who are in the chat now who don't know Pearl Davis, one of her position is that women shouldn't vote. And this is the thing about the idea of women shouldn't vote. I am open to not just the idea of women not voting, but to the idea of repealing or amending this position the West have with regards to universal adult suffrage. I don't have a position yet, but I'm open to the conversation, right? Like, I personally, it's not like I agree with those who are like, we should limit universal adult suffrage, or I agree with those who are like, universal adult suffrage is good enough itself and we should continue with it. But I'm open to the conversation, not the conversation of women shouldn't vote. Like, there's a difference between universal adult suffrage and women should. I'm open to that idea, but any person who wants to say that should make a case for it. Whoever you want to exempt from the voting pool, you should make a case for it, and I want to hear what that case is. And honestly, just poorly things, her view on women not voting is ridiculous. Like, it's highly nonsensical. So So it doesn't mean that I'm opposed to the idea of universal adult suffrage being limited or being repealed or replaced with something, but how she explains it for me is kind of not making sense. So I don't know if you understand my position on the whole thing, but the women shouldn't vote thing, if she can make a case for it, like make an actual case, because when I watched her segment on Piers Morgan, and she said women shouldn't vote because women don't get drafted. But there has not been any draft for like how many years in the US. So that's a stupid position. Women shouldn't vote because women don't do the heavy job in society. What do you mean by heavy job in society? Women that are nurses, nurses is not a very important profession. Are you saying because they are nurses they shouldn't vote? What exactly are you saying? You know, and then if you say, okay, men should vote because men do most of the work, like men work in oil rigs, men work in power line and stuff like that. Well, not all men work in oil rigs and power lines. Not all men do functioning as in heavy jobs in society. So only men who work in oil rig and power line and should vote. Is that what you are suggesting? So her argument is not strong. It's just not compelling, and it sounds absolutely ridiculous. So that's why I'm like, nah, come up with a better argument. Anyways, I have ranted for a very long time. Let me see what other people are saying. This is from Ami. I don't know how to pronounce your surname. Amit, surname, not know how to pronounce. She said, politics adds trash to the internet. I agree. And this is Chukwu Igwe saying only people who are eligible to fight in war should be eligible to vote. Well, what about people who are the problem I have with this position is that it suggests that the only important job in society is fighting wars. What about giving birth? Right? Is that not an important job in society? I mean, it's people who you give birth to that grow up to become soldiers. So is that not more important than fighting wars? That's just my pushback to that argument. And this is somebody saying people should be able to at least think critically in order to vote. I agree with that. Like critical thinking, maybe we should use that as, okay, if you're able to think critically, but the question now becomes, how do we determine that? Well, right, you can say, oh, we should be able, only critical thinkers should be able to vote. Okay, how do you determine who critical thinkers are? Right, so that's kind of the problem with that. Is there's no person who you meet and say, I think only people who are smart should vote. That would be like, okay, well, some may disagree with it because maybe they don't think themselves smart. There's that, and they want to vote. But the question becomes, okay, how do you measure that? How do you measure smartness? And this is from Moon Phantom. Say only people who work actually useful jobs should vote. At least people on social welfare should not be able to. Well, I have nothing to say about that. You make a good point. I guess I would say, yeah, maybe you should say only those who pay taxes should vote. I think that used to be the position before. The fear with that is that you may end up disenfranchising an entire demographic or ethnicity by doing that, especially when you consider that those many people in that demographic don't vote. I mean, don't work or don't have jobs or something like that. So, anyways, let's go to the tweet, guys. Let's go to the tweet. And yeah, so this is the tweet that well, is this it? Oh, where is it? Sorry, I think I scrolled past it. Okay, yeah, yes, here's the tweet. Here's the tweet that began the whole Twitter storm. This was posted on September 21st, and this is from Hannah Pearl Davis' Twitter account. She said, the tradcons push marriage because they aren't old enough to know better yet. They don't know the reality of what they are pushing. Now, of course, any person with any person who is wise and in Paul Davis's shoe will not say something. Will not, even if you want to say something like this, you will not say it the way she just said it, because the way she just said it is arrogant and stupid. Right? You can say something stupid, but say it in a smart way, where even though you are being ridiculous, your ridiculousness can be forgiven. But when you say something stupid in an obnoxious way, it becomes hard to forgive. You know, first rule of thumb, if you're going to say something stupid, at least try and be reasonable about saying it, you know. And I guess it's a difficult feat, especially when you're being unreasonable with the point you're trying to make, to not also say it in an unreasonable way. So she's guilty on 2 counts of saying something stupid and saying something stupid in a stupid way. Because how do you say that tradcons, and by tradcon you mean Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro, and Michael Knowles, and you're saying these people are tradcon? That's the first thing, is that you insult them and you say they are cons, they are frauds. That's essentially what you are saying. They are traditional frauds. You call them that, and you say they are pushing marriage because they are not old enough. Second thing, you say these people are not old enough when you are in your 20s, and these people are in their late 30s. Some of them are in their late 30s. Only one of them is in his early 30s, right? So you have people who are in their 30s, you are in your 20s, and you are saying they are not old enough to know better. They don't know the reality of what they are pushing. But you, who is younger, know the reality of what you are saying. So that's the stupidity of the whole tweet, and it raised a very serious Twitter storm. And people we are not happy with, and nobody should, because it doesn't make sense to say. And also another thing is that she's pushing that marriage should not be, that nobody should promote marriage. Essentially, nobody should promote marriage. That's essentially what she's saying, that if you know what marriage entails, you will not promote it. That's essentially what she's saying. And let me see what some people have said. This is Chuku Igwe. And he said, women in the West have abandoned the social contract that has held society together for thousands of years. This social contract placed obligation on both women and men in order to maintain society. To say women have abandoned them, like, of course, I know that you're speaking in general terms here, and of course, it's understandable if you're trying to talk about things in general terms, but how general is it is something that we really cannot ascertain, can we? How many women are you sure have abandoned the obligation of the contract under marriage? How many of them? You know, it depends on where you are staying. Have there been any studies conducted to give us the number of women who do not regard marriage, who do not have regard for marriage or feel obligated towards their marriage contract, whatever it is? That is something you cannot really just generalize and say, I come to this conclusion based on what? Will be the question. Based on what are you saying this? You can say, oh, based on the women I know. Well, the women you know are not all the women in the world, right? So maybe, and the women you know is based on certain things. One is based on your location, is based on your profession, and it's also based on who you are. Okay, so that's kind of the problem I have with that statement. Now, is it true that there are some women who have abandoned their social responsibility when it has to do with marriage? Yes, there are, but how many of them? We don't know. So if you want to get married, then so it is not logical. It does not follow that when you are not able to know the actual number of women out there who are willing and ready and have, both in their ideology, in their worldview, have abandoned marriage. If you cannot ascertain that number, it is not right to then come to the conclusion that discouraging marriage as a result is something that we should consider based on an assumption that is unverifiable. So that's just the issue. And a tweet like this is not talking about Chukwu Igwe now, but talking about Pearl Davis. A tweet like this is something that you say to just incite something. You're saying it to anger people, to troll. This is like trolling, even though she will say she's being serious, but this is just me. I want attention. And sometimes that's how I feel about Pearl Davis. I feel she's just look at me, pay attention to me. And when people pay attention to her and are like, okay, explain what you just said, she's like, oh, no, I don't know stuff. And I'm like, if you don't know so much about what you're talking about, because you see it, if you watch one or two of her interviews where she's been interviewed by someone else, when she's been backed to a corner with people making valid arguments to counter what she's saying, sometimes she just says she doesn't know so much about the subject. And people are like, okay, if you don't know so much about the subject, can you at the very least stop talking about it? But no, she wouldn't. So here she is replying to somebody who said, So why don't you get married before dictating to others what marriage is? I would wager the conservative Catholic with several children probably have, I'll wager the conservative Catholic with several children probably has a better grasp on it than you do, seeing as you are single and have no children, which is a fair statement to make. You've not been married, you know nothing about marriage, you've not lived long enough. I don't even know how many relationships you've had, like with the opposite sex romantically, to come to certain conclusion about, you know, the nature of women, even an personal experience you don't have. So to come to that conclusion and say trad cons don't know what they are getting to is really ridiculous. And what does she reply? She said, I would argue a divorce lawyer actually has the best take on marriage. We are in a different time. And this is a very stupid statement, and I'll tell you why. Imagine that I want to do a study about men and say, I want to do a study about toxic masculinity, for example. And I conduct this study on men who are in prison and who were convicted for committing violent crimes. And that is what my study is based on. And then I tell you, oh, I've done a study based on men who are in prison and who were convicted for violent crimes. And based on my study on these men, I have come to this conclusion with regards to toxic masculinity. Will you take me serious? No, because you say my research is skewed. Look at the men that I'm talking to. Of course, the way they are going to present violence, for example, is going to be on the criminal side. The way they are going to talk about risk taking you're learning about society in general from criminals, and not all of us in society are criminals. So a divorce lawyer telling you about marriage is the same thing, because you are getting idea about marriage from somebody who specializes in dissolving it. What he's going to tell you is going to be based. It's like asking a police officer. If you ask a police officer now, do you think somebody who specializes in homicide, let's say a homicide detective, do you think anybody is capable of murder? What do you think he's going to tell you? He's going to tell you, yes, everyone is capable of murder. Why? Because he deals with murderers on a daily basis. So his view on the issue is based on the world he finds himself in, and that does not represent the entire population. Do you understand? So you do not say based on the experience of somebody who specializes in dissolving marriage, you are going to come to a conclusion about marriage. So that is very ridiculous. You don't come to that conclusion. But I think a divorce lawyer has a better say about marriage than somebody who is actually married. You know, so that's ridiculous. That is really really ridiculous. And I want to highlight this comment. This is from Keegan. I don't know how to pronounce your surname. He said, let's not get out of reality. The fact is, men need women and women need men. We are social creatures by nature. We can't deny that. Of course. Amen to that. 100%. And this is from Rodney. I think a relationship with her would be hard work. I would definitely not marry her. The truth at the end of the day is that some of these people, what they show you on social media may not be who they are in private. So, and that's why sometimes it's likely that she's just grifting. I'm not saying she's a grift. I also hesitate to call people grifters, because they may, for you to be a grifter, it means you don't believe what you're saying. And maybe she does, maybe she doesn't. I don't know. You know. Then moving forward, she said, I don't know. I think she's replying to Michael Knowles. And then she said, Michael Knowles, do you have the same energy for single mothers being bad mothers as you do for Justin Walker, talking about having multiple families he take care of? As Muslim men with multiple wives automatically bad fathers then? Well, let me not reply to that, because it has to involve us diving into Islam. But here is here she is replying. What tweet is this? She said average divorce is okay. She said people who get divorced at the age of 37 to 45, roughly. What does that have to do with anything? I don't even understand. What is she replying to? I don't know. But let's keep going. Then she's replying to somebody by the name of Tiago Campos, who said marriage and parenthood are great and should be encouraged. Having children is necessary for the continuation of the human species. I get that relationship can be complicated, but it doesn't have to be doom and gloom. Men can work on themselves and be selective with the women they choose. Most times people choose poor quality partners because they themselves have not put in the work. Any man that is in good health, has goals, good work ethic, ambition, embrace masculinity will most likely not be interested in women who do not have much to offer. If men raise the bar, women will follow. There are many great men out there already, but there definitely could be more. Which is a fair point. Like what this said is a very fair point to make, which is that yes, there are so many problems with marriage. There are so many problems with the institution of marriage, but it doesn't mean we should toss it out. Like you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Okay. So yes, there are issues about marriage that we can talk about legally and otherwise. Yes, the issue of divorce is problematic. True. But it doesn't mean you should abandon it. And he gave a very good reason. We said having children is necessary for the continuation of the human species. So, and we will all agree that it is better to have children within the context of marriage because it is also better for the continuation of a moral, sane, well-developed human species. So if a healthy marriage is necessary for a healthy society and for the future of a healthy society, then it's something we should strive towards, which is a very important point to make. And also another thing he pointed out is if we work on ourselves, there is a likelihood we have more likelihood of finding good partners and more likelihood of having a good, wonderful relationship. So, which is a fair point to make. And what is Pearl's response? He said, you are so out of, okay, that's not her response. Her response is, would you encourage someone to sign up for something with an 80% failure rate? Okay, first of all, that's a lie. Okay, the failure rate of marriage is not 80%. It's not 80%. At first, the people say it is 50%. Some say it is 75%. Some say it is 80%, but it's not 80%. That's not true. But let's assume that it is 80% for a minute. For the sake of this argument, let's assume that it is 80%. And let's answer the question. Would you encourage someone to sign up for something with an 80% failure rate? The answer to that question is, it depends. And everybody knows that this is the true answer. It depends. It depends on what that thing is and the importance of that thing and the necessity for that thing. Everything has risk. There is risk to everything in life. And why we take certain risk is because we understand the benefit and we understand the necessity for it. It doesn't matter how risky it is. Human beings have been known for centuries to embark on risky adventures, on risky endeavors, life-threatening endeavors. People wage war with a 70% chance of failure. People do crazy things. The reason why they do it is because they believe that it is beneficial and it is necessary. If something is necessary, the risk does not matter. Okay? The only time you will consider the risk of something and the risk of that thing will be the reason why you back down from doing it is if it is not worth it. The question becomes, is marriage worth it? Is marriage necessary? The answer is yes, definitely. And the tweet here that she's responding to highlights that very importance. The tweet says, having children is necessary for the continuation of the human species. If you agree with that statement, then you cannot conclude that marriage is not necessary. Except you are saying, oh, we should have children out of wedlock. And there is nothing traditional about that. And it is not good. It is not helpful for children that their parents are not together. We all understand that for the development of a child, he needs the father and the mother, and the father and the mother need to be in a loving, healthy relationship, loving, healthy commitment. If that is necessary for creating the next generation of to be people who are well-rounded, well-nurtured, well-raised, then it is a no-brainer that marriage is necessary. So if marriage is necessary, even if the risk of it dissolving of it ending in divorce is 95%, you should still go ahead and get married. Because it is as necessary, marriage is as necessary to society as food is necessary for an individual. Without food, you are going to die. Without food, you will be weak. You can't function in society. So let's say that the risk of going out there to fail. Let's say we are living in prehistoric times, right? And the risk of getting food without dying in the process is 75%. Are you going to starve to death instead? Of course not. Because it is necessary. You would rather die trying to get food, right, than starve to death. So you would rather try to raise a better society than not. It's just no matter how difficult it is better you try raising a society than not doing that. So that's my response to that. Let me see what people are saying in response to this. This is from Rodney. She said, technically it is true. Marriage has to have a practical side. I get where you're coming from. Yes, practically, maybe. Now, mind you, this statistics is exaggerated. This stat that 80% is exaggerated. We don't even know if that is actually true. In fact, I've heard that the actual figure of divorce rate in the US is actually 35%. Not even 50%, not even 75%, not even 80%. It's 35%. Everybody with their own figure. But I'm saying even if it's 99%, it does not negate the fact that you need it. No matter how impractical attaining it is, you rather die trying. I mean, is it not we men in society that say get rich or die trying? Right? Are you going to say that is something we should not consider because many of us will not end up being rich? Are you going to give up and say, oh, there is no chance of me being rich, so why not? Why should I even try? And the risk sometimes to getting rich may involve losing everything. But it is worth it if you think getting rich is important. That is the point I'm trying to make. So if you think marriage is important, it doesn't matter the risk. And this is from Keegan. He said, it has been proven by Harvard that a child needs both parents to function in society. It's not impossible with one parent, but the chances are lowered. Exactly. And this is from the Not So Random Dude. They said 35 is still high. It is. I'm no doubt about that. That's why I said I don't even care if it is 99%. I don't care. It is important as it is important. There are some things that are important regardless of how risky they are. And if you consider them important, you go after them. Marriage is important. It is necessary. You want to die childless without something to continue? Nothing? No, come on. You want to die without leaving your mark on the universe? You just want to live, eat, breathe, buy stuff, consume things, have random sex, no children involved, and then just die? If your ancestors did that, will you be here today? I know my ancestors live in a different time, and so what? So now that you are living and you want to end it because there are some laws passed that are not advantageous to you? Really? Really? Your ancestors lived in a time where they didn't have modern medicine. Children were more likely to pass away. What if they gave up and say, what's the point in having children when there's a likelihood of them dying and not give birth to you? Will you be here today? That's the same thing. You are giving up. You don't give up on something because it's difficult or there's a high chance of failure. You try nonetheless because it is important. Feels like I'm repeating myself. This is from Keegan. He said, in Africa, we keep 10 wives. US struggle to keep one. Well, it's kind of different. Okay, it's kind of different. I mean, the legal, social, cultural ideology in Africa is not the same as in the West. So I understand the difference. And this is from the Not So Random Dude. He said, this is why I don't condone when... Okay, I get where you're coming from, but I don't want to dive into that issue. It's a long issue. And then it's 80% of people in prison are from one parent family. Well, I don't know how true that is, but I think it's close to reality. And this is from Not So Random Dude. Said the fact is our ancestors were more healthy than us lazy people. I don't think people abroad understand that what you just said, but I'm going to say anyway. Indomitable generation. Do you guys in the comment section understand indomitable generation? That's a Nigerian slang. I think what you're even trying to say is not the indomitable generation, it's Indomie generation. Indomie generation. That is what he's trying to say. And this is from I don't know how to pronounce your name with all the that's even English alphabet. I've seen a girl from high school got married with a I don't understand what you're trying to say. I don't think if this is a good word. With a kid, made husband hyphenate his last name because she don't want the kid feeling hot, all the while claiming to be a trad Christian wife. At this point, I don't even like the label of trad wife. I don't like that. Or traditional woman. That's rubbish. The word, people like Just Politics have made that word lose its meaning. But let's keep going. Let's look at other tweets that she responded to. And this is from Every Beetle Thing. Said, tell me you don't have any daughters without telling me. The fact that real pill terminology has entered Christian circles proves just how dangerous it is. Absolutely disgusting. And then Paul responds, they will cry about the question, but never ask if what he's saying is true. So what is the person saying? And then this is from Eric Kahn. He said, many Christian fathers will pay big money to send their girls to college where they become a well-used mattress with a drinking problem. The same fathers will spend little to no effort helping their daughter find a good husband. This is absurd. Oh my God. There are so many stupid people online. What is the sense of what this person is saying? Many Christian fathers will pay big money to send their girls to college where they become a well-used mattress with a drinking problem. Really, every girl who goes to college ends up to be a well-used mattress with a drinking problem. That's what happens to every woman. Once you see a college student, a female college student, she's a well-used mattress with drinking problem. That's all of them. And they are all from Christian homes. All of them. Right? And then those same people should be helped by their fathers to find a suitable spouse. I mean, in what world is this person living? I mean, the generalization and then insinuating that women cannot choose for themselves who a better spouse is, their father needs to help them. I mean, you would think we are living in 2023, but some people are still living in 1635. Anyways, this is another tweet from that follows, that's still on Friday. She said, if you are going to get married, you have to be extremely cautious and protect yourself no matter how good the woman is. A woman is still a woman. This is why people say Pearl is a woman hater. She's somebody who hates herself. And they are not wrong. If you talk about even I, who sympathize with the struggles that men face in society, who is traditional, who believe in marriage, will not say something like this. I know so many men who are deeply misogynistic, And they will not say something like this. And here you have Paul Davis saying something like this. You know, no matter how good a woman is still a woman. What does that mean? Like women are just inherently evil. Nothing about them is redeemable. Paul, does that include you? Paul, does that mean nobody should get married to you because you are still you and you will still leave your husband, despite how many times you said on the podcast that you've been hosting that if your husband cheats on you, you will not leave. Despite all of that, somebody should still be extremely cautious when dealing with you because you are still you? Really? Does this rule also apply to your mother? That your father should be extremely cautious with how he relates with your mother because you're a woman is still a woman. There are no good women out there that you can trust. This is so ridiculous. This is so ridiculous. I mean, let me listen to those in the comments. Say this Wonder Woman 9G. Paul is part of the manosphere. The majority of the manosphere push men to cheat, be promiscuous. They have no intention of marrying these women. They aren't trad men. That is the truth. If you are going to say traditional women are women who don't cheat, then traditional men should be men who don't cheat as well. But she doesn't talk about the men or criticize the men for cheating. Instead, she says it's not their fault. Men are cheating because women are cheating. And I'm like, what? I know women who got married as virgins, and yet their husband who got married to them cheated on them. Did they deserve it? Oh, men are promiscuous because women are promiscuous. That man got married to somebody who is not promiscuous, but yet he himself is promiscuous. You know, this is this is ridiculous. This is so ridiculous. But we continue. Let's see, what else did she say? This is another one that is a very classical manosphere argument and manosphere point making that is just so ridiculous. Look at it. He said, this is from Daily Loud. Daily Loud said actor Anthony Anderson ordered to pay $20,000 a month in spousal support to his ex-wife Alvina. And then somebody who was posting this said, if only Anthony knew, sad if true. And then Paul responded by saying, wouldn't it have been good if a guy like this could have been warning instead of being told? Could have been warned instead of being told to just get married and don't worry about it. You see, this is classical Paul Davis. You don't know the details of their marriage. You don't know what happened in the marriage. You don't know the guy. You know nothing about the guy. You don't know why they ended up divorced. You don't know anything about it. But you are going to give general advice like somebody should have warned him. Warned him about what? She has already concluded that the divorce is the lady's fault. It's not the guy's fault. It's the lady who's the reason for the divorce. See, and here's something about somebody being responsible for a divorce. It's not usually the person who initiates the divorce that is responsible for it. There are women, for example, who cheat on their husband, get caught in the act, and then divorce the man. There are also men who cheat on their wife, get caught, and divorce the woman. Whose fault is it in both cases? The women? So it doesn't matter who is initiating it. The initiator of the divorce is not usually the person who is at fault. It's not always the case. Okay, so I'm just saying this, assuming that the person who initiated the divorce in Anthony Anderson's marriage was the wife. Let's say it happened that it was the wife who initiated it. It does not correlate with, therefore she was the one who was at fault in the marriage. That's not the case. Sometimes the person who initiated it is the person who has been trying his best to his or her best to make the marriage work and has failed repeatedly because the other person is not reciprocating. But she shouldn't. That person should not. She should endure, I guess. I'm not saying I'm not for divorce. I'm not for divorce. I'm not a supporter of it. But what I'm saying is that you don't just blame the person who initiated the divorce for the divorce. It does that somebody initiated does not mean that's the person who is at fault. If you are going to play the blame game, but this is Paul Davis not knowing the the entire story of someone's relationship, but yet saying something about it, and that's, for me, it's just that's wrong. You don't do that. And let's go to the comments. And this is not so random. To say Steve Harvey's wife did that. Now we don't know if the story about Steve Harvey is true. I don't know how true that is. And this is from Rodney. Rodney, is that your name, Rodney? That you just decided to spell differently? I don't know. She said, this person said Frank could debate bigger fish like Destiny. I would not like to think too highly of myself, but I don't like debates, so I would rather call it having a conversation. Believe me, when I'm conversing with people, I'm not like when I'm having a conversation with people, I'm not this I'm not this way. I have a different demeanor, a different personality entirely. You will be amazed. You'll be like, wow, this is not how he is when he talks just alone. Like when I'm talking to people who I don't agree with, I have a different tone, or at least I would like to think that. And this is from Jerry Crow. She said she's talking to women that say that they need a man making 300K yearly. No. This excuse does not fly. Please, people, and please, I want to. This is not true about Pearl Davis. She's not talking about a specific woman. She's talking about all women. She does not specify. Paul just said, is it like my eyes is paining me when I read this thing? Let us read it again. She said, if you are going to get married, you have to be extremely cautious and protect yourself no matter how good the woman. A woman is still a woman. And she put the good in air quotes, meaning women are not good. She didn't even use her popular adjective, modern woman. No. This is nah. People should stop using that excuse for Pearl Davis. She nah. And this is from Keegan again. Says she likes to speak in generals without background information, and is built on assumptions. Exactly. She is built on assumption, and when she brings facts, it's just facts that support her claims, and she ignores the ones that doesn't. She doesn't even consider argument to the contrary. She's just ready to respond. And when you actually converse with her in person and you present compelling evidence, she just keeps quiet and then says, I don't know so much about this thing. And I'm like, if you don't know so much about it, please do the world a favor, right? And just shut the hell up. And this is another tweet by her. Say, if conservatives are really pro-family, the number one issue on the agenda is ending no-fault divorce. Nobody will argue with you on that, right? Especially if you're conservative. Everybody knows that no-fault divorce is a problem. Everybody knows that the court system is stacked up against men. That's true. There's no lie about that. Nobody would deny that, right? Nobody would deny that. And yes, conservatives should make it an issue. True. But it does not mean they should not promote marriage. It doesn't mean marriage should not, because to end this issue is going to take a very long time. I mean, how do you, a state like California in the United States, how do you get that kind of state to end no-fault divorce? In the meantime, should those living in that state get married? You know. Pearl Davis said, I'm not anti, this is, she's responding to someone, oh my God, you've become anti-marriage. And she responded by saying, I'm not anti-marriage, I'm anti-pretending that it is not a terrible system for men in the West and telling naive men to just find a good woman and get married young. I don't think anybody is doing that. I don't think anybody is pretending. Even in Africa, marriage is difficult. The difficulty of marriage is universal. There is no person living in this world that will not tell you that marriage is hard, that marriage can deteriorate into something terrible, even without divorce. But even without divorce, like people feel like, oh, the only problem in marriage is people getting divorced. But that is not the only problem. Like there are people in Africa who are married and they are miserable in their marriage. You see, having misery in marriage is universal. Okay? And nobody is going to deny that. Nobody is going to deny that the chances, even in Africa, this is the thing about people don't understand about marriage. Everybody, every normal person, when he considers the risk involved in getting married, will be scared. In Nigeria today, there are women who are scared of marriage. There are men who are scared of marriage. Not because of divorce or that the marriage will dissolve and then they will be left with somebody will take half of their and no, there are many reasons people have. There are many. You know, like even if the lady does not take half of my stuff, I will end up having a broken home and get to raise children in a broken home. That is something to be scared of. Or in Africa, for example, the stigma that comes with being divorced is something that is scary. The fact that you may even end up living for a very long time with somebody who you hate or may grow to hate is also something that is scary. Divorce aside, there are so many reasons to be scared about marriage. You know, Westerners talk about the money aspect because, you know, money is king in America. Materialism is worshipped like nothing else. But in other parts of the world, they have other things they are worried about when they think about marriage. There are many things. There are people who are married for long and the woman is dealing with the man, as in dealing with the man. They are not divorced, but the woman is handling him. The same thing is true for women. There are women who are married and the man is, hell, Jesus. The man is showing this woman hell. They're not divorced. Nobody is talking about splitting half. They're not even, it's not even an option on the table. Marriage can end up being miserable without divorce in the picture. And it's even worse, especially when you are in a country where it's not even the cultural norm for people to get divorced. It's even worse because you have to consider the fact that you have to live with this person for the rest of your life and nobody is in support of you ending it. You think that is a wonderful future? That is different from what you experience in the West and is something you would prefer? It is messy. It is messy universally. That's the point I'm trying to make. Yet it is worth it. And that's what everybody is saying. It is a risk worth taking. Like I said earlier. And I don't know, I think it needs to be repeated over and over and over again until everyone understands that it is necessary. Marriage is necessary. And this is from Chukwuigwe. He said the Western conception of love and marriage is a false narrative due to romanticism. In Nigeria, marriage is more practical. That's true. That's true. And Chukwuigwe, I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100% on this point. That in Africa, marriage is not just, of course, there's the romantic part to it, right? In Africa, to some extent, right? But for the most part, when people think about marriage in Africa, they are more practical about it. Africans are very practical when they talk about marriage. They're very practical. You understand? It's rare. It's rare. It's not the norm for you to hear that people got married in Africa because they are just so in love. Nah, ask them, why did you get married? And they will give you practical reasons. Oh, I checked her character. I observed her. I even have my friends veto her. I told my parents to consider her. There are certain things I was watching out for and she possessed all those qualities. The same thing will be what the woman will say. Oh, no. I did my homework. Okay? I really looked, as if she had the things I was looking. That is what they will tell you. Hardly will you hear somebody say, oh, I married her because I love her. No. It's not the norm. You don't hear two people that were madly in love and that was the reason they got married. No. Every one of them will tell you there were certain things they were looking for in a spouse and they saw it in the person they got married to, and that was why they got married to the person. I'm not saying that there are no exceptions to this rule. There are some, you'll find them. But for the most part, that is what, especially in Nigeria, that is what is obtainable. So yeah, that's true. And this is somebody extending an invitation to South Africa. Keegan is saying, if you ever want to visit South Africa, you are welcome to stay by me, just so you know, Frank. All right, I'll keep that in mind. Keegan. I'll keep that in mind. This is from Jerry. Maybe in Christianity it is necessary, but what other animals get married? Jerry, we are not animals, okay? We are not we are not animals. We are psychological beings, okay? And in raising children, psychology is important. And if you want children to be well-rounded psychologically, they need father and mother. We are not animals, okay? Please don't equate us with goats and cows. And this is from Not So Random Dude. He said it's true. African parents are the most exactly. You know, if your father asks you why are you getting married to this person, and you say I'm getting married to this person because I love her, you better come up with something better, because that does not fly. That does not fly. Anyway, so moving on to something. To something else with regards to what Paul was tweeting about marriage. She said, trad cons should be demanding divorce reform morning, noon, and night. But instead, they just say, get married anyway, and F the RP for being marriage hesitant. And this is one thing we see in the West, or we see among human beings. Everybody is like, the issue I am focused on, or the issue that I find that I'm passionate about, should be what everybody should be talking about. The issue I'm passionate about, everybody should be talking about it about, and nothing else. Like there are not a plethora of issues in the world that we have to discuss about. No, we should pause every one of those issues and focus on this one. And we should be talking about it morning, afternoon, night. Now, if you want to do that, fine, go ahead and do it. But don't say, oh, everybody should do it, else they are not genuine, or else they are not serious. No. There's so many things to discuss about. There's so many things to talk about that we cannot all become relationship podcasters. We cannot all become people who talk about relationship morning, afternoon, and night. Okay, there are people who do that. Fine, that's something they consider passionate, but not all of us. There's so many things we all want to talk about. So people should be allowed to do that without being seen as disingenuous because they don't spend just as much amount of time as you do talking about a particular issue. That's ridiculous. Next, she said, typically, what you will see is men and women under the age of 45 pushing marriage. By age 45, most people have seen some people get actually wrecked by the system in the West. Again, where are you getting this information from? What statistics do you have to back this up? Nothing. She's just talking out of her ass. What about Jordan Peterson, who pushes marriage, who advocates for marriage? What about Jordan Peterson? He's not over 45. He's also a trad con. What about Glenn Beck, the white-haired guy from The Blaze? Is he not over 45, pushing for marriage? What about those people? They don't know what they are talking about. This is just ridiculous. What about my father? And what about so many people's fathers in the West too, who is like my son, get married, and they are old, they're well over 50, 60, some of them. They don't know what they are talking about. Huh? Where do you get your facts from? You know, this is just ridiculous to begin with. And this is from Trisha Salas. She said, Pearl never states her sources. She doesn't have any. Her source is her ass. That's her source. And this is from, I think you are responding to Chukwuigwe. He said, my Igbo parents don't allow me to marry. Oh, well, that's another issue in Nigeria. Tribalism, we can spend the whole day talking about it. I guess this is what he's responding to. He said, I'm Igbo from Imo State. My wife is a Yoruba woman from Ekiti State. Our marriage is bigger than just me and her. Our families are married now. And that's not how things work in the West. Yeah, that's what he just said is very true. In Africa, marriage is not between just you and your wife. It's between your family and the family of your wife. Is a unit. And I think that is the problem in the West, is that there is no weight. There's no cultural weight. What is holding African families together is not law. It's not a law. There is no law holding African families together. It is a culture. And there is no cultural. That is why I feel, even though people complain in the West about the laws and the court system and all those things, I'm like, even if you have those things in place and you have a culture, if you don't have those things in place and you have a culture that still does not value marriage, marriage will still not end well. It will still be in a sad state. But in Africa, we have a strong culture that ensures that protects the dignity of marriage and protects the sanctity of marriage. It's very cultural. It's not just legal. It's not just something about what the law says or what the court says. Something about what culture dictates, and that culture is very strong. In Africa, in Nigeria precisely, marriage is a big deal. Like, getting married is a serious something. It's not like I've had Westerners, they just wake up one morning, go to the court, sign some papers, and they are married. It doesn't happen like that in Nigeria. It doesn't. Like, in Igbo culture, for example, if you want to get married, first you have to meet the parents of the lady. You have to. It's a must. You have to. There's the first one, which is like knocking on the door. You tell them your intentions. They have to they have to approve. Your parents have to approve of it, right? And then there is the ceremony around it. That is not something that happens on the day of the marriage. Like, when I mean ceremony, I mean rituals. Let me use that word, rituals. Yeah, like rituals, I mean practices. Not like we are cutting the head of goats. And I mean, there are certain things that have to be done, certain traditional rites that have to be fulfilled before the traditional marriage will take place. And in Nigerian churches, if the traditional marriage have not taken place, they will not wed you. A Nigerian church will not wed a couple who have not fulfilled the traditional rites. You will not be married. Because Nigerian churches respect the tradition of the people getting married and ensure that you follow the tradition of the people, or you follow your tradition when you are getting married. Now, do people often, bypass all of them and do what Americans do and go to courts and sign papers? Of course, there are people who do that, and many of them, the marriage end up terrible. So one way to ensure you have a good marriage, and here's another thing about marriage in Africa. When there is problem in the marriage, both families will come together to fix it. Like, let's say you and your wife, you're having issues. Your parents, the parents of the man and the parents of the woman will come together and say, listen, what is the problem the two of you are having? Let's settle it now. That's why we don't have plenty marriage counselors. You don't need marriage counselors when your parents are still alive. You see that marriage, they will fix it. They will fix it. And parents are wise. Like, parents are wise. They will not, unlike in the West, where you have a counselor who will side with the woman, or you have a counselor nobody is siding with anybody. They will be, even if it's their daughter despite their daughter is involved, or their son is involved, especially if you are dealing with a wise parent, they don't take sides. They will tell you what you need to do and how you need to fix the marriage. And I guess that is part of the reason that has made marriages in Africa, I don't know. There's no stats that I can back this off of, but if I'm to go based on what I've seen, I think it is relatively successful, more successful than what you find in the West. And this is from Jerry Crow. So, Frank, you're not a proponent of free thought. What have I said to suggest that, please? Because I don't understand. No, you are getting it all wrong, my dear. I don't know how to explain. I don't think I've done a good job of explaining African custom to you. Okay? There is like... even if you bring a person to your parents, right, for them to approve of, and they disapprove of the person, two things: they are not the ones deciding, you are the ones deciding. They just don't agree with your choice. So you have two options: either you try to convince them or you find someone else. Okay, so that is your option. Try to convince your parents or you find someone else. So it's not the aunties deciding or the parents deciding. It is actually you deciding. It's like you bring your choice before them, they look at it and they veto it. So it's not them deciding, it's you deciding. It's you and them deciding. Let me use that word. Exactly. It is you and them deciding. Okay? You are not going to get married to somebody except you are in a powerful family that is using the force of their family to pressure you into getting married to somebody. I'm not saying it doesn't happen in Africa. It does. Arranged marriages still do happen all over the world, I would say. But that's not always the case. And this is from Mr. DJ Fly. Hi. Hey, Frank, did you watch the whatever podcast they had Abby on? One of who is Gabby? Abby Fia, one of the panelists. And my God, I don't know. Is it Gabby, the lady, the Andrew Tate lady? I don't know. If that's the person, I've not seen it. No, this is not. I'm not talking about arranged marriage. That's not. No. I'm saying there's somebody you want to get married to. You are the one who is choosing that person, but you have to convince your family too. You just have to. In Africa, you have to. Now there are people who still get their family to endorse it half-heartedly, right? It can still happen, right? Because this is modern times, okay? You still have men who will be like, no, this is the person I want to get married to, and I don't care what you think. And then they convince their parents. You can still convince your parents to go along with your choice, but they have to go along with it. Instead, I don't know how you have a traditional marriage. And when problem arises, you are on your own. So these are the things you have to consider. Yeah, this is from the Not So Random Dude. Exactly. I don't know if I'm doing a good job of explaining Nigerian marriage culture. But the point I'm trying to make, you don't just marry anyone. You have to, it has to be somebody that your parents will approve of. That's that, and there's a good thing to that. It's not that your parents are choosing like I've said before, it's not that your parents are choosing the person you're getting married to, it's that you are vetoing your choice. It is still your choice. You just have to agree with it. And that is how so many men have been saved from marrying terrible women. Because you see, you bring a terrible woman to your father, and you have to understand foresight of parents. So many parents are really wise, and they can look at this person and say, listen, my son, let me tell you something about this person. Based on my interaction with this person, this is what I think. This is what I think. This is what I think. And if you're a wise son, some fathers like mine will point out this to you and then tell you, well, you can still go ahead and get married to the person, but I want you to be aware of this. I will not say no to your choice, but I want you to be aware of this. And if you're a wise person, you will look at what your parents have said and be like, they have a good point. Now, sometimes parents don't have, their parents who just say no to a marriage because the person is from a particular tribe that they don't approve of. In that event, then you try to convince them because really they don't have a good point other than tribalism. So in that event, you try and convince them. Some people are unsuccessful in doing that. Some are very successful in doing that. So it just depends. And this is from Mr. DJ Fly. He said, Gabi Fee as in the fat black chick who made wild takes on TikTok about how she still gets high value men, even though she's BBW. Even though she's BBW, I don't even understand this. What does BBW mean? I don't know. I really don't know what BBW means. Guys, tell me what it means. Yeah, there's issue of tribalism. Please, we've digressed. You guys have made me digress. The point was not to talk about discuss African marriage. It's to discuss marriage in general. So let's go to Pearl Davis. Oh, Jesus. Okay, so this is a tweet from Logan Hall, and this does not have to do with marriage, but I want to address this. This project results from the 2018 midterm based on polling pattern and the 538 live forecast on October 24th. And then she said, reason number, okay, and she's retweeting somebody who said, reason number 84939, why women shouldn't vote. That's not a good reason. In fact, that shouldn't be a reason. Scrap that off your reason book, off your list of reasons. That should not, the reason that, if we have more women, they will vote a particular political party, is voter suppression. If that is your reason, that is textbook voter suppression. I don't know how people don't understand that. If you say, oh, women are more likely to vote Democrats than Republicans, and therefore we should ban women from voting so that they will vote Republicans, that is voter suppression. That is not a reason. Come up with something else. Jesus Christ. It's as if people don't understand that. People don't understand the principle of democracy. Sometimes when they are talking, they don't consider that when they are listing things. Anyways, let's see something else she has to say. Okay, before we go on, I think we've really explored her view on marriage, and I think there are many more she said. There are people she responded to, so on and so forth, blah blah blah. But there's something else I want us to look at before we end the live stream, and which is Matt Walsh's response to Pro Davis. And I want us to, he did a very good job of responding to her. And I want us to listen to his response because I think it is very important. But before we go to that, let us see what people are saying in the comments. This is Chukwu Igwe. This cultural difference between Nigeria and the West is critical. Marriage is a romantic expression in the West, while marriage is more of a business deal for Africans. Romanticism has failed. I won't say it is a business deal for Africans. I won't call it a business deal because that's a cynical way, a cold way of describing it. I would rather describe it as it is seen as a family union in Africa. Marriage is seen as a family union, as a union of families in Africa. It is seen as it is seen for what it is, which is the foundation of a society. It is seen as the continuation of a lineage. It is seen as the foundation upon which a lineage continues. It's seen as the merging of families. It's seen there's so much weight placed on it. You understand? And in the West, it's just seen as two people who love each other getting together to see what will happen. And when you approach marriage like that, divorce is inevitable. If you ask me, if you send me a text, if you send me a private message, I will respond to that. Or at least give you a version of a response to that. I'm not comfortable talking about that publicly. And somebody's coding. Please don't scold Chukwu Igwe, please. Please don't do that. You say, okay, you like Tokyo. Whoa. No, he has a point. He just didn't say it perfectly. Or at least the way I would. I think we are both saying the same thing, just using different words. So please, he's my guy. Chukwu Igwe is my guy. This is somebody I would like to meet in real life. Hopefully, if he lives in Nigeria, we can make it happen. Trust me. And we'll record it live. And if he even wants to, Chukwu Igwe, I'm even extending this to you because you're one of you're somebody who I appreciate your comment on my live stream. Like I really appreciate them. If you want to come live, like you want to be featured on my live stream, by all means, send me an email. I will see if we'll make it happen. And this is from Keegan. He said, you marry into the family. Yes, that's how it is. In fact, that's how we say it in Africa. You are marrying into this family. Not I'm marrying this woman. She's the love of my... No. And that's something Africans will even tell you when you want to get married. Have you considered the family of the people you're getting married to? And it's not like the view considering that should make you just say automatically no. Sometimes it's just like you'll be aware of what you're dealing with, know what you're dealing with when you're getting involved in these things. So that's how Africans see it. But in the West, it's not the case. And this is from Omar. He said, please bring people with knowledge. Oh, Chukwu Igwe is someone with huge knowledge. You should read his comments. He's great. Anyways, now let's skip all the ad reading and I want to get to the very beginning. Please, can you guys hear? I want to. Is it audible? The brief moment I just played, is it audible? Because I'm not sure okay. Thank you. Oh, they said no sound. Okay. To fix that, I'll have to remove this and put it back. Share screen. Share screen. Entire screen. This share with sound. Share. All right. I think we're going to fix that now. Got it.
Hotspot. That's why I love Pure Talk. They are veteran owned. They only hire the best customer service team located right here in the great USA. Most families are saving almost $1,000 a year while enjoying the most dependable 5G network in America. Remember, you vote with how you spend your money, so stop supporting local wireless companies that don't support you. You go to puretalk.com/Walsh, you'll save an additional 50% off your first month.
Let's just keep listening to
actually value you. That's puretalk.com/Walsh. Pure Talk, wireless for Americans by Americans. I've spent a lot of time in my career defending the institution of marriage, and I defend it because it's the bedrock of civilization, so it deserves defending, and I defend it because it's under constant attack, so it needs defending. And one of the most troubling developments in recent years, which we've discussed on this show in the past, is that these attacks are increasingly waged not just from the left, from certain noisy segments of the right as well. Some right-wing influencers with legions of young, mostly male fans have decided that men should abandon marriage and family life and go their own way. And these influencers, many of whom consider themselves a part of the so-called red pill movement, pretend to despise feminists and yet have essentially arrived at the same conclusion as feminists, which is that we should give up on the family.
Now, here's my criticism. So I should increase the volume. Okay, I will. Here's my criticism of Matt Walsh in this regard, and it's just a slight criticism. My criticism of him in this regard is that there are some things that happen in the conservative space among so-called conservatives, and not low profile conservatives, not throwaway conservatives. I mean, prominent figures in the conservative space. There are things they say that are not so conservative rather. There are things they do that are not so conservative. There are things they promote that are not so conservative that I know Matt Walsh would not agree with. Yet when they do it, he keeps quiet about it until it can no longer be ignored, or until somebody who is smaller in the conservative space talks about it, then he hops on it. Or I don't know with what metrics, with what he uses to judge talking about an issue that is being an issue that is being raised by somebody in the conservative space where he doesn't agree with them. I mean, this issue of people not being in support of marriage, this cynical view of marriage, is something that I don't think it started yesterday. I think it has been on for a while. And I'm not saying a while, 4 years, but I think, yeah, it's pretty recent, but it has been on for a while. As far back as last year, I've been hearing people discourage men from getting married and call themselves conservative. I've seen people do that. And some of them are people who you categorize as conservatives. And I've had them talk about this, push this, but when conservative figures want to criticize people who are anti-marriage, all they focus on so far has been feminist. And I've noticed it, and oftentimes when I watch them, I'm like, I agree with you, but people on your own side are also not in support of marriage as well. Yes, for a completely different reason, but they are not in support of marriage regardless, whatever the reason is. And one thing I want to, my rule of thumb is in whatever, if you belong to a movement, is be quick. I believe this, be quick to criticize people in your own movement than you are quick to criticize people outside your movement. be quick to criticize people who call themselves conservatives than you are to criticize people who call themselves liberals or leftists. Your judgments should start from your own house. Charity should begin at home. You cannot wage war against people outside when your house is not in order. And sometimes I feel conservative pundits and what have you ignore the mess in their own house. Often do that just so they can focus on the mess outside. And for me, I'm like, focus on the anomaly going on in your own front. Like, focus more on, I'm not saying you should not talk about people in outside, but I think talk more about what is going. Like, try to fix your own movement, put your own movement in order. Because listen, I've had people who call themselves centrists, people who say they are politically homeless. And the reason is because they agree with some things that people on the right, for example, say, and don't agree with some things some people on the right say. So you don't agree with everything on the left, you don't agree with everything on the right. And the reason is because prominent figures are pushing this. And somebody like Matt Walsh may agree with you as a centrist on some of the things you don't like about the right, but he will not criticize his own side in regards to those things. Instead, he waits for a particular time, for a particular. I don't understand. I really don't. I don't understand. Maybe there is a particular system with which he chooses the topic he addresses, but I don't know. I really don't know. But I hope that I've been able to communicate my criticism of Matt Walsh in this regard. And this is what it says. So Frank talks a lot but says very little. Well, if you think so. And this is from Original. Why did Jesus commit the... Oh, boy. That's not what we are talking about today. Oh, go to the comment section of the last live stream and talk about the Jesus throwing gay people off of buildings, because that's exactly what he did. Give me a second. Boy. Sorry, there's something I want to fix. And please, guys, we are not talking about Islam today, okay? Today, yes, that was yesterday. And if anybody keeps talking about Islam, keep putting it up in the comments. I will have no choice than to block that person, and that's what I'm about to do. In case you are wondering, in case the person's comments stop appearing, you understand why. It's because I just blocked the person, because I think the person carried them grievance from the last live stream. Sorry, that live stream has ended. Maybe when we talk about it again, you can bring it up. So please come back when we are talking about it again. And Jerry Crow talk about politically homeless. Yes, they feel like we don't belong anywhere. We don't belong to. Right, that would be great, but it's just me. I'm a one-man army here. I'm a one-man army. That would be great to have somebody who will help me remove comments that are just problematic. Right. So that being said, let's continue the distance. So that's my criticism of Matt Walsh in this regard. Like, why wait so long before you criticize wrong things going on among conservatives that you don't agree with? Why wait so long? Why wait till the thing is shouting in front of you before you do it? You criticize people on the left every day, but people on your own side, you hesitate. I feel this hesitation in criticizing them. That's how that's how Andrew Tate was able to gain prominence among conservatives. There are many conservatives who still buy into the whole Andrew Tate manosphere BS, and who think Andrew Tate is a political prisoner and is being prosecuted politically, and who think he's the savior of men. And I don't think Matt Walsh agree with that take. He thinks, I am very sure he would agree that some of the things Andrew Tate prescribed are dangerous for men. But does he say anything once or twice and then he's done? Like that will make Andrew Tate disappear? Of course not. And then this ideology these ideas or these wrong ideas infiltrate your movement, takes a hold of the majority of people in your movement, and then one day you will wake up and realize that the conservatives you used to know are not the ones that are with you anymore. Something is going on in the movement, and you were busy talking about Dili Mulvaney to notice. For me, I'm not criticizing, complaining about Dili Mulvaney. I'm just saying, when you focus so much about outside, you ignore what is brewing inside. And I feel sometimes he does that, and then when he realized that there's a problem from within, it has already taken a huge hold of the entire movement. And may have been maybe too late. I just hope that now is not too late and that he will keep hammering on this repeatedly, especially tackling red pillars. Like I call them red pillars because I don't know what else to call them. This red pill community, take them as one of the people he should address and he should speak to and he should criticize, because many things they promote is like many of their ideas are terrible.
The two sides hate marriage almost as much as they hate each other. Now, one of these influencers is a woman named Pearl Davis, who has garnered a relatively large following on YouTube and various social media platforms. She's in her mid-20s, single and childless, and yet full of opinions about modern marriage and family life, a subject that she has no personal insight into whatsoever. She spent the past few days on the internet complaining about quote-unquote trad cons like myself, who, she says, promote the nuclear family despite not understanding what it's really like. Yes, we men who actually have wives and children don't know what it's like to be married, but a woman who is not married and has no children does know what it's like. In one of her tweets, she wrote, quote, "The tradcons push marriage because they aren't old enough to know better. They don't know the reality of what they're pushing." This is accompanied by a picture of myself, Ben Shapiro, and Michael Knowles. We aren't old enough to know better and don't know the reality of what we're pushing, yet a woman who is younger than us and single does know better and does understand this reality. In other posts, she goes on to say that marriage is a terrible deal for men. And she later explains, quote, "Would you ever sign a contract that fails 75% of the time, where your business partner is paid to break the contract? Why would you encourage men to sign that contract until the terms are fixed?" Now, you may be surprised to learn that marriages fail at a rate of 75%. The figure that people like this normally use is 50%. And the claim that 50% of marriages end in divorce is already spurious, and we'll have more on that in a moment, but 75%? I was wondering where that number came from, so I scrolled down and I saw something that she reposted from an alleged lawyer who said this, quote, "It's not 50-50. That only accounts for divorces. Another 25% on the negative side for miserable men trapped in cheaper to keep her marriages, unwilling to risk financial destruction and loss of their children. 75% chance of a devastatingly bad outcome is just a bad plan. No sane person would enter into a commercial contract on such terms." Now, I did ask him where he got this 75% figure from, and he wouldn't say. Apparently, the magic statistic fairy came and whispered it in his ear. Now, for her part, Pearl later tweeted a picture of Pierce Brosnan with his wife of 20 years, and she questioned whether the marriage counts as successful since Brosnan.
And this is so messed up. This tweet is, as in Paul Davis sometimes even have messed up tweets. Like, this is so messed up because the woman put on weight and she's not the way she was 20 years ago. That's to show that the man is miserable in the marriage. Like, this is the kind of argument you get from Paul Davis. Like, this lady is so, like, vile is the word that comes to mind. She's really, like, when they say a human being is toxic, I believe she is. She's very toxic. Very, very toxic. Imagine a man who is just happy with his wife, posting pictures of his wife. Okay, yeah, the woman put on weight. Is that somebody who is probably in her 50s or in her 60s putting on some weight? That is, God forbid, she should have a supermodel figure until she dies. Jesus Christ.
Brosnan's wife has put on some weight at the age of 60. So apparently, even if they're happy and have remained married for 2 decades, they still might fall into that 75% failure rate because they have not both remained in supermodel condition into their 60s. This debate on social media brought out the rest of the marriage skeptical crowd on the right. A bunch of these red pill influencers decided to hop on an emergency Zoom call and spend 2 hours talking about me and the rest of the Daily Wire crew and our reckless promotion of society's most fundamental institution. Now, there's one clip here that you should see. This is apparently a divorce lawyer who says that the failure rate for marriage is not 50% and it's not 75%. It is, in fact, even higher. Listen.
I think marriage can be successful, of course. It's just not something that's as scalable as we as a society are trying to pretend it is. Marriage is, and I've said this 100 times and I'll say it 100 more, marriage is like the lottery. You are probably not going to win. Okay? You're probably not going to win. Don't make that your 401k. You're probably not going to win. But if you win, what you win is so great that I don't blame you for buying a ticket and trying. I personally don't buy lottery tickets. But when somebody says, yeah, I played a lottery, hey, man, somebody's got to win. And you know what? As long as you're not blowing money that you need for food or to put shoes on your kids' feet, you're not hurting anybody. Go out, give it a try. So I always tell people, listen, marriage, when it works, when you have somebody who's married 20 plus years and they're still crazy about each other, that is the exception, not the rule. But when you do it, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. So why not buy the ticket, take the ride, but have a prenup? Wear a seatbelt, guys. You can be a safe driver, but wear a seatbelt.
So a happy marriage, he says, is like winning the lottery. And the thing
It's so ridiculous. Like, this is so ridiculous. See, guys, ladies and gentlemen, do not take marriage advice from a divorce lawyer. Okay? Do not. Right? Just like you will not take life advice from a morgue attendant. Okay? They see a marriage at the end of it. They don't see a marriage in its totality. They don't know, they are surrounded by failed marriages. That doesn't mean they know how for a marriage not to fail. That's why they come up with this kind of suggestion. If you are surrounded by somebody who all he knows about marriages and all he deals with when it comes to marriages is failed marriages, then he will think every marriage is a failure because that's all he deals with. We've made this point earlier, but that's just, and then he said it's like winning the lottery. Anyway, let me allow Matt Walsh to address the issue.
The thing about the lottery is that almost everybody loses. This is a perfect summation of how this entire club views marriage and the message that they're sending to young men in particular. Sure, it can be great, they concede, but only if you're insanely lucky. Everybody else is screwed. This is a rather bleak view of marriage, and thankfully, it's also nonsense. First of all, the claim that marriage isn't scalable is obviously ridiculous because marriage has served as the bedrock of human society since time immemorial.
Thank you.
It has already happened at the scale of civilization for thousands of years. Now, the divorce lawyers come along and say that, you know, this thing that society's been doing forever, turns out it doesn't work. Unless you're the one in a million. It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous claim. Now, what about the failure rate of marriages in our culture? We've heard 50%, we've heard 75%. We just heard that they fail at a rate similar to the rate that people lose the lottery, which would mean higher than 99%, a lot higher. Yet, these kinds of astronomical odds are not based in anything but the doom and gloom speculations of the people inventing them. There is no evidence that having a happy marriage is as unlikely as winning the lottery, or that 75% of marriages end in misery. And what about the 50% number? Well, this is at least is a familiar statistic. It's something that you've probably heard before. 50% of marriages end in divorce. It's familiar, but it is bogus. And one way you know that it's bogus is that people have been claiming that 50% of marriages end in divorce since I was a kid. I've been hearing that my whole life. And that would mean that divorce rates are static across time. But of course, that isn't the case. In fact, we know that divorce rates have gone down in recent years.
Yeah, and that's something to note because people don't mention this when they talk about divorce rates. And the truth about divorce rates is that according to this, I don't know where I saw the statistics, but I know I saw it, and yes, there was a time where it spiked, especially in the West. There was a time where it spiked, I think in the 80s or 70s. And then since then, it has been gradually going down. But people who are anti-marriage or who think marriage always ends in divorce will not mention the fact that it has been declining. So he's right.
So where does the 50% figure come from? Apparently, it's a holdover from the 1980s, which is when people first started citing that statistic. It's not true today. And it's actually
not. This is from Mr. DJ Fly High. He said, I mean, he isn't wrong about marriage being like the lottery. I mean, look at Black Divorces and number of Black dating podcasts besides Fresh and Fit. Man, bro, do you understand the rate of failure when it comes to the lottery? It's high. How many people win the lottery? As in, how often people win the lottery and win big? The rate of not winning a lottery. Let me Google this so that you guys, so that people, because I believe that sometimes we just state facts without understanding what they mean. Right? We just say certain things and we don't understand what that thing we are saying mean. And I think that's what is happening here. Right? I think that's what is happening here. So let me see if I can bring up statistics. How often do people win the lottery? Let me see if I can find a figure here. I'm not seeing any. They're not bringing up statistics for me. Oh, this is not what I want. Anyway, let's continue listening. But the point I'm trying to make is that the chances of winning the lottery is lower. Very the chances of winning is not even up to 1%. It's not the chances of winning a lottery is not even up to 1%. And you are saying you have less than 1% chances of having a successful marriage. Haba, it's not that bad, my dear. It's not that bad. Hey, it's not that bad. It's not. It's not that bad. And this is, see, somebody like Jerry Crow say 1 in a million, depending on the lotto. So you're trying to say you have 1 in a million chance of having a successful marriage because that's the same chance you have with winning the lottery. Come on. Come on. Come on.
not clear that it was true even in the 80s either. So what is the actual divorce rate? It's a little bit hard to determine. Probably our best guess is based on U.S. Census data, which according to the most recent figures says that about 35% of American adults who have been married have been divorced. So it's not exactly going to give us a precisely scientific figure of what the divorce rate is, but it's as close as we're going to get, 35%. And 35% is high. I mean, it's way too high. It's not 50% though, and it's not 75%, and it's not 99%. And it's definitely not lottery odds.
Mm-hmm.
Still, isn't it terrifying to think that if you get married, your chance of failure is 35%, and the chance of success is only 65% at the most?
And I want you guys to,
even if we go with that.
This is the part that I want you guys to pay close attention to, because I think Matt Walsh makes a very, very important point. And I want everybody to just pay attention to it. Pay serious attention to it.
Number, isn't that still very, very scary? Isn't it high enough that it should dissuade anyone from attempting it? The answer to that question is no. And here's why. If the divorce rate is 35%, or even if it's 50%, it does not follow that your own particular marriage has a 35 or 50% chance of failure. Now, I'm not saying that you should be cocky or reckless, or that you should see yourself as invincible. I am saying that you shouldn't, on the other extreme, see yourself as passive debris floating helplessly on the tide of statistical likelihoods. Because you are an individual. Your marriage is an individual thing. and its chances of failure are not set by society at large. So here's an example to illustrate what I mean. And this is really, really important to understand because as marriage rates fall, and those are falling, the thing that convinces so many people to not marry in the first place are numbers like this. And this misconception that, well, look at the divorce rate, and that is my own specific chance of getting divorced. And I'm here to tell you that that's not how it works. So I think this illustrates it. The obesity rate in the United States is over 40%. Does that mean that your own chances of becoming obese are 40%? No, it doesn't. Your chances might be 5%.
True.
They might be practically zero.
True.
Or they might be quite a bit higher than 40%.
Like me, my chance of being obese is like 0%. I eat like every kind of thing goes into my mouth, and yet look at me, team body. Let me even show you my body. See my shoulder blades are popping out. The chances of me getting fat is really slim, very slim. I don't think I have one fatty cell in my body. The possibility for me to get fat is really zero. Even if I live in a country where they eat fast food every morning, afternoon, night, I think my body has fast metabolism. Somebody like Zendaya, her chance of getting fat is not 40%. For me, I think for her, I think it's probably zero. The same thing applies in marriage. But let him finish.
That's because obesity is the result of behavior and choices. If you do not engage in the behavior or make the choices that lead to obesity, you will not become obese. The fact that 40% of people around you are fat does not mean that you automatically have a 40% obesity risk. Now let's take another example. Car accidents. Americans get into car accidents at a certain rate. I'm not sure what the rate is. It doesn't matter for our purposes. What does matter is that your own individual chance of getting into a car accident is not the same as every other driver on the road. The people who compile statistics will say things like, motorists have an X% chance of getting into a collision. But you are not just a generic motorist.
Yeah.
You are an individual. Now, you can never bring your own chance of dying in a fiery car wreck down to zero. But if you're a responsible driver, then obviously your chances of getting into an accident are much lower than the chances of someone who is not responsible. All of those stupid drivers who don't understand the basic rules of the road and like to tweet and eat while they drive and everything else, they're inflating the numbers for everyone. They're also making the roads more dangerous for everyone. They are actually actively making your own chances of getting into a car accident higher because the roads are filled with stupid people.
Yeah.
But your chances are not as high as their chances.
Very true.
You do not share their level of risk unless you're as dumb as they are. Because again, you are an individual, not a mere statistic. So, what about marriage? It's true that even if you do everything right, things can still fall apart if your spouse doesn't follow that program.
True.
Now, if you both do everything right, or even most things right, then your chance of divorce is basically zero.
True.
But you could do everything on your end, and maybe your spouse doesn't do the same, and then it falls apart anyway, and that happens, and it's terrible, but it happens. It's also true that there are many, many things you can do in your marriage and before your marriage to make it much more secure than the average. Obvious things. Like you can marry someone who shares your same fundamental values. Not everyone does that. In fact, a lot of people don't. A lot of people go into marriages knowing ahead of time that they're marrying someone who doesn't share their fundamental values. Their chances of divorce are going to be somewhere much higher than yours if you don't make that basic entry-level mistake that they have made. You can do other things. You can state from the outset that you both, in principle, don't believe in divorce and won't consider it as a viable option for solving any marital difficulties you may experience down the line.
I want to pause here. Sorry, we got interrupted, but this is from Jerry Crow. He said, in essence, still saying, if you simp for girls, the probability for marriage working out is greater. if you spend on your girl, she will marry you. That's not what he's saying. You're not listening, Jerry. Listen, that's not what he's saying. And on the idea of simping, some men in society, especially Western society, think agreeing with your wife, doing what your wife wants, or listening to your wife sometimes, or when she makes a good point, is you simping for her. Marriage is two people in a union. Sometimes what your wife says is what is right. Sometimes what you are saying is what's right. You know, Abraham in the Bible, God told him to listen to his wife. Was he a simp? I don't know. What do people mean by simping? Trying to make your wife happy is a bad thing. Is you simping? In marriage, you live for the other person. You live for the good of the other person. What are you expecting? You're going to get married and only your needs will be met. You are the center of attention. The world will revolve around you. You are the man, the alpha and omega, the beginning and the end. No. You are married to a human being with needs, with desires. It's a person you are married to. Treat that person like a person. Follow the golden rule. Do unto others what you have others do unto you. Will you want to be listened to? Then listen to your wife. Will you want to be respected? Then respect your wife. It's not simping. It's called relating with somebody like they are human beings.
You can have a strong and shared faith. You can establish from the beginning a habit of honest communication. You can make time for each other. You can continue to date, even or especially as your lives get busier and you start having kids and so on. You can make a strong effort to be patient with and grateful to each other. You can take care of your body and your appearance. You can do all these things and more. Now, I'm not saying that if you do all of this, it will bring your divorce chance down to zero. I'm not denying that there are plenty of people out there who did all this, at least on their own end, and he still ended up divorced. That's not my point. My point is that the divorce rate doesn't take any of that into account. The people who take none of these basic steps are lumped in with the people who do all of it, and we're supposed to believe that both groups have an equal chance of marital failure. That's just not true.
True.
Now, I don't deny that there are real serious problems with marriage in our society. The so-called red pill people and others, they raise totally legitimate and important points on that end. We need drastic reform, abolish no-fault divorce. The entire family court system has to be torn down and rebuilt. The system is stacked against men in many ways that are extremely unfair and have ruined countless lives. So let's fight for those reforms, absolutely. But this systemic problem is not going to be solved today or tomorrow or next week. Abolishing no-fault divorce is just the beginning of reforming the system. Lawmakers in a small number of red states have only just started to seriously consider that idea, which is merely step one. Mm-hmm. So we're a long way off from fixing the system. It took decades to get us here. It will take decades to get us out at best.
True. And it's stupid to wait for the government to change things before until things change. You know, there are so many things you can do on your own end. In the meantime, there are so many steps you yourself can take to ensure you have a successful marriage. Not everything is government. This is one of my problems with Westerners. Every problem they have, the solution is government. Come and live in Nigeria now. You will not be able to walk. In fact, you will just wake up and you will just be incapacitated because government is on every side frustrating you. So how do you live?
Anyone who tells you anything else is selling you something. They're selling you a bill of goods. This is a decade-long, long-term struggle. The question is, what are young men, young people in general, supposed to do in the meantime? And this is where the red pill becomes more of a hazy, foggy, ambiguous pill. They have no answer. They simply shout about reforms that are needed, yet have nothing to say to the young men in our culture today who will be old, if not dead, by the time the system is fixed, if it's ever fixed at all. What are these young men supposed to do right now? What kind of life would you have them lead right now, today? The answer, it appears, is that an entire generation of young men, if not multiple generations, should skip marriage while we wait for the system to improve. But this is not a viable solution. It's not a solution at all. It's a surrender. You're asking entire generations to give up their bloodline, their legacy, their chance of finding the transcendent joy and meaning that family life can provide.
Mm-hmm.
You're asking them to give up on themselves and on civilization itself.
True.
For thousands of years, human beings have always understood that their most basic purpose and obligation was to form families and have children.
Mm-hmm.
And yet you're telling these young men to ignore this calling and do what instead? Live for themselves alone, wasting away in front of screens, only to die with no descendants, leaving no lasting mark on the world?
Mm.
Think about the kind of misery you're consigning these men to. Think about the catastrophic, probably fatal effect this will have on our country.
Mm-hmm.
You can't give up on propagating the species for a few decades and then pick it back up again like nothing happened. That doesn't work on any level, individually or societally. It is a recipe for despair and collapse. Am I saying that young men and women should accept the risk then and get married anyway?
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Exactly.
That doesn't mean you should be reckless. I've already talked about many practical things you can do to mitigate your own risk so that it's not a roll of the dice. You should do all those things. Don't go into marriage blind,
Mm-hmm.
but don't run from it either.
True.
Even if you mitigate the risk to the extent possible, still there will be a risk. That's true. But here's the rub. All good things come with risk.
Thank you.
The more worthwhile it is, the worse
More
and more disastrous it will be if you
Exactly. Every good thing you want comes with a risk. If you want to have good things in life, you have to be willing to take risk. Nothing good comes easy, and everything good that you are pursuing in life comes with so many risks. So many risks that an insurance company cannot calculate. Believe me. So no. You have to keep doing it regardless. We as a species, we move regardless of the risk. Human beings, we move regardless of the risk. I can't say this enough. We move regardless of the risk. We've never been deterred by risk. We take risk every day, again and again and again. Since when have we become like this? Since when? Since when have we become like this?
fail. If you take on more responsibility, then your life will be more consequential. And the more consequential your life is, the more cataclysmic your failures potentially become. A married man with children lives a life of greater consequence than a single man with no children. There are more people depending on him. He has a greater stake in the future. This means that if things go sideways, it'll be a tragedy. If he screws up or his wife screws up or they both do, his life will be ruined, his children will be devastated, and the impact will reverberate down through the generations. This is what it means to live a high-impact, consequential life.
Yes.
These are the stakes. And yes, they are quite high. Now, sure, you can stave off that sort of catastrophe by staying by yourself, never going out on a limb, never taking any risk, never marrying, never having kids, never striving for anything great or meaningful in life. But then you're not avoiding failure and misery. You are guaranteeing it. You are ensuring that you never lose your family in a divorce by never having a family to lose in the first place, which is like ensuring that you never go bankrupt by being bankrupt to begin with.
Exactly.
I'm not going to lose all my money because I'm going to stay broke. I beat the system. Not losing by having nothing to lose is a loss in itself.
True.
And I don't want that for anyone. It's not a path to happiness and prosperity for either you or society. It is a path to defeat, a preemptive and self-imposed defeat. And that is the worst kind of all. Now let's get to our 5 headlines.
All right. And we are done with that. Well said, guys. Well said. Well said. And this is why I love listening to, as in I don't skip a day of Matt Walsh's show. Sorry, my tongue is crazy with pronouncing foreign names. I don't miss a day because you get wise listening to him. There's certain things he says and you're like, wow, this is makes sense. There's some things he says I don't agree with, but oftentimes I find his take on things really profound, and he's somebody who I think is articulate and thinks things through. Right? There's some people who just blab things. Their thoughts are not collected. They've not really thought about what they are saying, and they don't make a case for what they are saying. But he does, and he does it excellently. And I agree with everything he said here 100%. And this is important, very important. He said something. He said choosing not to lose by having nothing to lose is a loss in itself. Right? My brother always says something. It's one of the statements that my eldest brother, not Yudi. I have two brothers, right? He's my immediate elder brother, but I have a brother who is older, and he said something to. That's not his quote, but he's the first person from whose lips I had it. He said, "If you take a chance, you stand a chance." Okay, and that is how life is. If you take a chance, you stand a chance. The only people who don't stand a chance of success are people who don't take a chance at success. Now, if you take a chance at success, you might fail. But if you don't take a chance at success, you won't succeed. Right? Only those who play the game win. You don't become a winner by not playing. So, that is the important thing we need to understand with regards to marriage. It's difficult. It comes with huge risk. It doesn't matter the law. Even if the law is perfect, marriage is still a huge risk. A very huge risk. If it fails, like he said, it will affect you. It will affect your children. It may affect a huge portion of your generation to come. But it's worth it. It's worth trying. Because if it succeeds, you'll be happy, you'll be fulfilled, and you will have impacted society and impacted the future and would have left a mark in the world. These are your options. And like I always say, modern Western man, choose wisely. Okay? Choose wisely. And this is something from Jerry Crow. He said, I think the real debate here is about monogamy. My thought is that there are better ways than marriage without government. Well, this is the thing. I don't know how the law works in the West, but even in Nigeria, even if you have a relationship with a woman, once children are involved, you have involved the government. Okay? Once children are involved, the government is involved. I mean, how much did Johnny Depp settle his what's the name? Not Amber Heard now, the other woman he got, he wasn't even married to her. They were just together and they had children together. The mother of his children, I think is it 15 million or so that he gave to her. That was settlement, and they were not even married. Okay? So once children are involved, the government takes over. So if you are like, oh well, except you are living in countries where the law does not extend to protecting children. Okay. So yeah, that's and this is from Mythos. He said, take the risk, be a man. Exactly. Like there's no better. You are a man. Men are known for taking risk, man. Take the freaking risk. You are a man. Somebody is saying, I think this person, I don't know if that's what you mean. This is by Sleeping Buddha. I said he is as manipulative as Paul. Okay, first of all, if you are referring, if the he in question is Matt Walsh, and you say he's as manipulative, well, nah. If he's being manipulative, he's not as manipulative as Pearl Davis. But I don't think he's manipulative. So no matter how you want to twist this statement you just made, it is wrong. And this is from Keegan. If you aim at nothing, you hit nothing. Exactly. 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 And I think we've really talked about the whole issue of marriage, and I think that's what I wanted to talk about. My issue with Paul are many, but one of the issues I have with her is her take on marriage, and I think it is her recent take on marriage. I don't know if that has always been her position, but her recent take of marriage, and this is something that I've seen so many men parrot, especially the host of the whatever podcast, who said men should not take. He said it too. Men should not take contracts that are likely to fail. I'm like, dude, it's not. It's not. Human beings don't operate like that, and thank God we don't, because there's so many things we will not have done. And I don't think we will have existed this long. We'll have been extinct like dinosaurs if we operated like that. But we've been taking risks and they've been paying off. And we are grateful for that today. Thank God my ancestors did not give up on giving birth to children when the when infant mortality was high. When your child could die from malaria or die, or you didn't even do blood tests, so you don't even know if the spouse you got married to is anemic or AS, and then you're likely to have sickle cell, an anemic child. It's something that many Africans suffer from. They weathered all of that, and thank God they did, took the risk, and here I am today. And I will not disappoint my ancestors by being afraid of risk, of taking risk, no matter how high the percentage may seem. If it is beneficial for the propagation of society, for the continuation of human civilization, I owe it to the people before me to have people to hand over something to. And it's cool if you don't see, and this is why some people tell me marriage is not for everybody. Marriage is not for everybody. Some people just want to go around the world traveling and taking pictures and live. And I'm like, I get that there are some higher responsibilities you may have that may prevent you from getting married, right? Mary Slessor, in order to stop the killing of twins in Calabar, did not get married. That was a noble cause. But if you're going to replace not getting married with go traveling around the world and taking pictures, I don't even know what to say to you. And that is why marriage is important. It's not about you. This thing transcends you. It's not about your happiness. People are like, as long as they are happy. It's not even your happiness. Is not even the it's not for me. It's not. Yes, it will make you happy if it goes well, but it's more than just that. It's an obligation that you are not fulfilling. You owe it to the people before you. If the people before you had decided to take pictures and travel around the world, you will not be here. And of course, there are many preparations that go into getting married, like preparing yourself, being emotionally matured, and maturing as an individual. Your maturity is your responsibility. It's an obligation for you as a man or a woman, whoever you are, to be matured enough to handle marriage. You need to prepare yourself for it, and you need to do it as an obligation that you owe to society itself. And even an obligation you owe to yourself. And this is serious. Like, the issue of marriage is not just of having a family. It's not just you. It's beyond you. And this is your opportunity. Marriage is your opportunity for you to live for something other than yourself. And that is why I would say to people who refuse to get married because they want to see the world, I consider them selfish. I consider them as people who cannot live beyond themselves. And this is not me prescribing a lifestyle. This is me describing an obligation. And That is where I'll leave it. That's my closing remark. And I wish Westerners would begin to understand this, because we need more of you guys in the world. We don't need less. The population decline of white people is not something that I'm happy about. And you shouldn't be either. And thank you guys. I appreciate everyone who has stayed this long. And yeah. And yeah, that's all I have to say. That's my rant. And I really hope people who are listening to me, if you are single, this will make you consider getting married. I really hope that if you are single, this thought should be something that you should be thinking about, and something that should shape your view on marriage and help you prepare for it moving forward. This is for me, marriage is a very important. Marriage, family is very important. Like I really, maybe it's because I'm a Nigerian. You know, we grew up with this consciousness. We grew up knowing this. Nobody needed to. We didn't need somebody to sit us down and tell us this. It's something we just understood from our parents, from everywhere, we received the message left, right, front, and so everybody is telling us this. But in the West, it looks like that is the message that is lost. People don't understand that. People don't understand the need for that. And I hope I've tried at least, if it is one person or two person or someone who is listening to me right now, I've been able to help them understand that, okay, I really need to take this serious and I really need to work towards this. It's important. So that's what I'm going to say, guys. Thank you for coming. I appreciate everyone. Jerry, Sleeping Buddha, Keegan, Chukwuigwe, who is somehow silent in the comment. I'm no longer saying Umar Youssef, Angie, even those who had comments that I don't approve of. JC for life, and those who have not made comment for me to even see them. I appreciate those who hit the like button. Thank you, everyone. Those who subscribe. If you're not subscribed yet, please do. Also follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram. Let's hit that 1,000 mark. And thank you. Thank you, everyone. And I hope I've been able to make a point, you know. And until we meet again, probably tomorrow. Peace.